What was happening inside the Wuhan Institute of Virology in 2017? If yes, why wasn't an alarm raised? Did global powers allow a big cover-up? Now, there is an explosive American report that has been accessed by Republic TV, and we have raised several questions in the last couple of weeks. Here is the report, a US panel report, and then we have some very special guests on the show tonight.
The Wuhan Institute of Virology has been the subject of global debate. Many experts believe this lab should be investigated for a possibility that could have led to COVID-19 spread.
From the beginning, China has been refusing for any accusation or any demands of the outside world. Even China has recently said that if you are going to investigate us, then go to the United States of America, because America also have so many virology, so many these viruses labs. And so why the world is not asking questions to America? So we are not responsible for this virus.
Now, a Republican Party report of House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence has made a sensational revelation. It mentions that Wuhan Institute of Virology had significant military participation and was conducting secret and classified scientific research. But what's shocking is that this report states that the US knew that there was something fishy in the lab in late 2017 itself. That's 2 years before the pandemic struck the world.
There are more facts, circumstantial evidence that indicates towards a lab leak theory than a zoonotic transition from some animal jumping, the virus jumping from some animal to human beings. Now this report, though it underlines American intelligence failure also, but then marshals whatever publicly available information we have insofar as the link of COVID coronavirus with the Wuhan lab is concerned in China.
The report has also raised questions on Dr. Anthony Fauci's NIAID's reported funding to an associated study, something that he was confronted on recently by US lawmakers.
This report says, and I'm reading from this report, this is the House Permanent Selection Committee on Intelligence Republicans report. It says, under Dr. Anthony Fauci between 2014 and 2019, the NIAID awarded more than $3.7 million in grants. The grants were given to the EcoHealth Alliance to examine the risk of future coronavirus emergence in China. Now, it's interesting because this grant was given to the president of EcoHealth Alliance, Peter Daszak, a very outspoken opponent of the lab leak hypothesis. So the grant was to EcoHealth Alliance, which was working with the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Dr. Daszak was also the only US scientist to participate in the WHO's 28-day investigation into the origins of COVID-19.
So as the clamour grows for an independent global investigation into the lab leak theory, questions also arise about America's role. Let's debate.
And we have a very special panel on the debate tonight. Major General G.D. Bakshi, defense expert, joining us live from Delhi. I've been looking into the different reports emerging from different parts of the world. Major Gaurav Arya, consulting editor, strategic affairs with Republic TV. He's live from Delhi. Ravi Batra, eminent attorney and chair, National Advisory Council for South Asia Affairs, live from New York. He's written about Narendra Modi and also Donald Trump, and he has some strong views on the subject. Aina Tangen, who's a political and economy commentator, live from Beijing. Thank you for joining us this evening. Dr. Li Mengyan, who's a virologist and a whistleblower, and is live from New York. So we have a very, very special panel with us. But I'd like to put my first question to Aina Tangen, who's joining us live from Beijing. You know, we've been reporting about this in the last few weeks. Very interesting, Mr. Tangen. Several reports, including reports of the US State Department looking into a possible, biowarfare theory. Now, I'm just calling it a theory because nothing's proven. It's under investigation. Secondly, you had top researchers and scientists from the US and UK write about this. And this US panel report, and I have the full copy with me, it's the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence Republicans report. It's a 24-page report dated the 19th of May 2021. And it says, and I quote, it says, As early as 2016, Wuhan Institute of Virology researchers were conducting experiments involving RATG13, the bat coronavirus identified by the Wuhan Institute of Virology in January 2020 as the closest sample to the SARS-CoV-2 virus. Now, my question is, and there is a lot that's in here, but my basic question to you, can the Chinese origins of the virus be dismissed completely?
No, I don't think anything can be dismissed, but you saw the WHO report, and they said it's highly unlikely. They're looking at other instances. Remember, from the scientific point of view, and you can look at Lancet, Scientific American, et cetera, all in Nature, it's been pretty much 98% in favor that this was a mutation that happened in nature that was not something that was done in a lab. And there are telltale signs of that. So that's really the issue. They're looking for how it jumped from one species to another. They have theories about bats being involved, also intermediary animals as well. So we don't know as of yet. So it is dismissed something that China is completely not at fault would be as silly as to insist that China is completely at fault.
Right. We're not saying China's completely at fault just yet. We will wait for global investigations and credible ones at that. And I'd like to put the second question to Dr. Li Mengyan. Now, she's been very outspoken about this.
You don't think the WHO is credible?
I said we will wait for a credible investigation.
You don't think the WHO is credible?
Last we checked, the WHO...
Well, you had a credible investigation, WHO. No?
Okay, I'll let Dr. Li Mengyan answer your question on the WHO. I'll let Dr. Li Mengyan answer your question on the WHO. Dr. Li Mengyan, why should we be questioning the WHO?
We should ask many things about to WHO. That first thing is, why do they help Chinese Communist Party government to cover up this whole pandemic from the beginning? The second thing is, why do they keep spread the misinformation that the virus comes from nature? And initially, they even tell people it's just not a big deal, and there's no point to have this kind of control about the pandemic. All these things, come out from WHO. They use people's, public and government's trust to WHO, this organization, to influence the policies in different countries and also influence people's knowledge about this virus. And also they suppress the good drugs like the hydroxychloroquine to be applied into treatment and even in the trials. All these things we have to ask, what do they get from China to do these things to help China to promote this kind of pandemic all over the world?
Now, Dr. Ravi Batra, you heard what she said, Mr. Tangen, and she's been speaking about it for the longest time, and she was attacked, she was trolled. Dr. Li Mengyan is in New York, and she was called a lot of things, and her accounts were taken off social media platforms, and what she said back then is being repeated by different scientists, experts, and researchers. We'll talk about that, but let me put the next question to Dr. Ravi Batra. Dr. Ravi Batra, now, this report that I have here suggests that the US knew of the Wuhan concern. It says that safety concerns of the lab's practices were identified by the US embassy officials in late 2017. And it talks about how from late 2017 to March 2018, experts from the US embassy in Beijing made multiple visits to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. It adds that diplomats warned Washington of the lab's work to make bad coronaviruses infectious for humans. It says the warning was of grave safety concerns resulting in accidental unleashing of new SARS-like pandemic, and it goes into great detail of a possible cover-up. Now, you have had some strong views on this. Now, what are your views, and how do you think you can get to the logical end of this?
Sure. First, good to join you, and I have not been referred to as Dr. Batra since I stopped teaching law 30-some years ago. But anyway, with respect to obviously the topic at hand, we've got a real problem. The Wuhan lab, there's no evidence that there was a deliberate transmission out of the lab. So you have to give it the benefit of the doubt. There was an accidental leak because they had poor controls. There is absolutely no evidence that there was a zoonotic jump from animal to human beings. In fact, the spike glycoprotein, which comes from a bat, was transplanted onto this virus. I had the coronavirus a year ago. I spent an intense amount of time learning the biochemistry and the epidemiology. I wrote to President Trump on April 14, 2020, to the National Security Deputy Advisor, Matt Pottinger. The next day, President Trump got the science in my letter confirmed and launched the original investigation of China. It is today an open secret that the virus is lab created. It's an open secret. The problem today, however, is not about crime and punishment. It's how to deal with this. What's happening in India, for example, we need to have the raw truth so we can disarm this virus, which is an ICBM of a virus. It's getting stronger and stronger. Each mutation is getting worse and worse. Natural viruses mutate down. This one keeps mutating up because it's lab created. So I've written a letter, of course, a year ago to President Trump, who acted. I wrote a letter last month to President Biden to remind him this is what the state of the affairs. So David Nunes' report is not new to me because I wrote about this a year ago. But recently I wrote to Prime Minister Modi saying we're beyond crime and punishment. We need to embrace Desmond Tutu Truth and Reconciliation Commission paradigm so we can get the world's scientists together to disarm this virus. The fact that it came out of Wuhan is not at all a mystery. You know, politically, people can play games with it. Scientifically, there is no game. It's a fact. And by the way, truth is not a popularity contest. Okay? You know, it doesn't matter if 99% of the people don't believe you. The truth is still the truth. So it came out of the Wuhan lab. It is lab created. We need to disarm it. And we need to get all the scientists in the world to disarm it. Period. That's what we need.
Yeah. And this report speaks of, I'd like to go across to Major General G.D. Bakshi. General G.D. Bakshi, this House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence Republicans report speaks about especially the funding of the U.S. with the 2015 study which was conducted in partnership with the Wuhan Institute. It says, and I quote, that the study was conducted into research aspects into creating a hybrid virus. I'm quoting purely from the report. Creating a hybrid virus that combined elements from two bat-borne coronaviruses. Mutated virus created by the researchers could more easily infect human cells, which was unnatural. Experiments involve creating a new, more dangerous virus without a corresponding vaccine. Now, all of this sounds like, the situation that we are dealing with, which Dr. Ravi Batra spelled out in great detail. General Bakshi.
Look, let me make a few facts very, very clear. When this virus broke out, when this hit us, there was a panel of the top virologists of the world who wrote that paper in the Lancet, a very prestigious journal, right? Saying that this is an absolutely natural epidemic. It is zoonotic in origin, and there is nothing to blame the Chinese for. I mean, the keenness to try and give a certificate of good conduct to China and its Institute of Virology in Wuhan was something that was quite surprising. Now, please read what Nicholas made, the very thorough analysis that he had done in the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, right? I think he laid it bare like a professional. And it now transpired that the certificate of good conduct that was being given, one of the people involved was, this gentleman called Peter Daszak. He is the head of the Eco Health Alliance, which was given $3.7 billion by the National Institute of Health by Dr. Fauci. to carry on the gain of function research which had been banned in the United States, which had been stopped in the United States, to outsource it to China. This gentleman paid the Wuhan Institute of Virology to conduct these experiments, to conduct these gain of function experiments. Right? When clear warnings had come that the Wuhan Institute of Virology, the safety standards are abysmally poor. They are not up to that standard 4 level. And there is a disaster waiting to happen. This disaster has hit us. And one is even led to suspect that this is not really an accident, because the circumstantial evidence is simply damning. The circumstantial evidence is simply damning, and I do not agree with Dr. Tangin. I vehemently disagree with him on the whitewashing that he is doing for China, the laundry washing that he has been doing. The whole of WHO is engaged in that exercise under the gentleman called Tedros. He is almost virtually an appointee of China. When the WHO team went to China for the first 15 days, they were put in quarantine, right? And while the Wuhan Institute of that lab was washed clean, when they were allowed inside, finally, they were not allowed access to blood samples. They were not allowed access to wastage water samples. They were not allowed access to the databases. They were not allowed access to 2 critical hospitals. There is adequate, if you are calling it a zoonotic virus, a natural epidemic, where is the intermediary animal? 15 months after this virus broke loose, how have we not come after? We have not found out that intermediary step. We know it was civet cats for SARS. We knew it was camels for MERS. How is it that you still haven't found out? Look, this is biological warfare. Just take a look at China's strategic literature, the science of military strategy. This was updated in 2017, a fresh chapter in the official doctrine of China was added about biological warfare, weaponizing the virus. And if that was not enough, the 2015 paper of Zhezong, that Air Force scientists and the 18 other, Chinese scientists, virologists, top virologists of the PLA, and made it crystal clear that the Chinese perception is that SARS was an engineered virus meant to target China.
General Bakshi.
China, I think, is giving itself that it is acted in self-defense.
Yeah. Now,
and if you read that paper, it is crystal clear, Niranjan.
Yeah,
and they have been working on biological attacks, on bringing the entire medical system down.
Now,
and having the freeze-dry viruses which can be aerosolized.
Yeah, General Bakshi, this particular report. This particular report, General Bakshi. I'm taking that point forward because this report that we have accessed today. Before I go across to Mr. Tangin, I'd like to get in Major General Arya as well. Major Arya, this report makes a couple of mentions. I'm going to read from the quote from the report. It says the Wuhan Institute of Virology is reported to have significant military participation, has been conducted secret classified scientific research, and that the Chinese government had appointed Major General Shen Wei, a top biowear expert, as its head. Now, these are facts, perhaps also available in the public domain, but my larger question was on whether China has been cagey throughout this entire episode. I'll take the specific circumstantial evidence that General Bakshi was referring to, but I'd like you to, speak about the lack of complete clarity from China during this entire pandemic.
No, absolutely, Niranjan. Thank you. I would like to start off by saying that I don't know very many people in India who have not lost a loved one to this virus. Right? Now, one thing is clear that this virus originated in China, number one. Not even the Chinese will dispute that. Dr. Tangin will not dispute it. It originated in China. And neither will Dr. Tangin dispute the fact that 3.5 million people have died worldwide. Now, this is phenomenal in terms of sheer data. So if 3.5 million people die because of a virus that originated in China, the responsibilities is China's, clearly. That's number one. Number two, Niranjan, the point is that when you put an army general in charge of a lab, you put an army general in charge of anything, his first instinct will be to weaponize it. That is what armies are trained for. Armies have weaponized everything from the force of nature to the stars, to space. That is what armies do. They have weaponized satellites. So now look at the geographical indicators that this virus gives out, Niranjan. We were speaking earlier today, and so this in Punjab, in Indian Punjab, this is taking lives. But you have a very, very soft version in Pakistani Punjab. Why is that? How does this virus know where to hop and where not? So it is geographically absolutely on target. This is like a weapon. It is stable. When I say it is stable, it is like an explosive. An explosive is stable because, once upon a time, Niranjan, we used to use nitroglycerine, which was very unstable. Today you use RDX, you use plastic explosive, which does not harm the user. It harms the person when it is intended to be used. This virus is stable. Coming back to what Dr. Batra also said and what General G.D. Bakshi said, people in China are not impacted by this virus. It originated from China, and people from China are safe. We wish them good health. We don't want the Chinese to be infected. But the fact of the matter is that China is growing, their economy is growing by leaps and bounds. Chinese who created this virus or were the originators of this virus have seen the entire global economy reeling, but the Chinese are safe, the Chinese are prospering, and everybody is dying. There are people dying on the streets, 3.5 million people. And I don't know, Niranjan, by the time this virus ends, when it will end, but how many people it will take along with it? 5 million, 10 million? I shudder to think, Niranjan.
Yeah, I know General Bakshi wants to come in, but I want to go to Mr. Tangen and put some of the pointers in this report. I want to get his response because he's sitting in Beijing. He knows exactly how Beijing is responding to all of this. This report says, and I quote, and referring to the circumstantial evidence that General Bakshi made a brief mention of, this report says that the Chinese government has I'm purely reading from this. It says the Chinese government has lied, obfuscated, covered up, blocked the flow of information. It took Beijing nearly 3 weeks to even acknowledge there was human-to-human transfer. Wuhan Institute of Virology and Chinese government stymied and manipulated a WHO 28-day review of COVID-19's origins. Wuhan Institute and China silenced medical workers and journalists trying to report on the outbreak. And point number 5, it makes 54 Chinese health officials confirmed guidelines issued to destroy samples of coronavirus from the Wuhan Institute because they suppressed all records at the WIV and they wanted to hide something. That's what this report says. Now, how would Beijing respond to a report like this, Mr. Tangen?
Well, it's a partisan report put out by the Republicans who've been fairly clear on what they think of China. I don't think that's a big mystery. The idea that they would be using propaganda to push a point is not unusual. Just one clarification. I am a doctor of laws, not medicine.
Right.
I'm a political and economic affairs commentator.
Yeah.
So I'm not speaking from a medical background, but I'm quite surprised that the panel doesn't include more, let us say, more leading lights from the medical profession. I mean, I'm hearing a whole raft of conspiracy theories. One, that the Americans and Chinese somehow work together. I really don't understand it. No, you don't have anyone who's an accredited virologist. The young lady is not her field, and there are questions about her background. I understand that people feel very strongly, emotionally, about what they think are facts. But facts are something that you can't change. They are what they are. Saying that everybody knows something, well, everybody used to know that the world was flat, but that didn't work out very well either. So at this juncture, I mean, Beijing is kind of puzzled as to why people are putting in all these wild conspiracy theories. The only conclusion is that the countries who did not handle COVID very well are trying to escape any kind of blame by blaming China. Instead of looking internally at what went wrong, how they should be responding more effectively, they're saying, oh, it's not our fault, the Chinese did this to us, and et cetera. So it seems to be much more about scapegoats than anything else.
Yeah, you've, you know...
Can I comment, please?
Yeah, just one second, General Bakshi, because he made a comment about Dr. Lee Meng-yan, so I just want her to respond because she's been smiling. Maybe what she says and what she has been saying is not comfortable, but, you know, I wanted to make a mention of what Mr. Tangen said. Mr. Tangen, you know, here on Republic TV, we're the biggest network in India, and we have doctors from 6 a.m. until 9 p.m. and sometimes, and most times at the 9 p.m. slot, we have only experts talking about the COVID-19 pandemic. And trust us, every expert has a lot to say about where this COVID-19, the virus, where the coronavirus came from. But I'll let Lee Meng-yan respond to what Mr. Tangen said. Lee, you want to respond to it?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Tangen said he's a doctor of the law. I think maybe based on his experience, facts always can be changed. But I'm a doctor, and also I'm the virologist, and also I work with WHO before. So what I can tell is some facts cannot be changed. It's like if some person is diagnosed as dead in medicine, so that doesn't mean he can survive. That is a fact, cannot be changed. Medicine is not law, and the science is not law. So the evidence already clearly shows that COVID-19 virus is based on the virus they get, the PLA get from bat, and after modification, they leave the evidence there to enhance many functions to target humans. And my first-hand information, this is released in Wuhan initially and out of control after cover-up, then purposely released all over the world. And also China government doesn't want other people get enough help, and even including you. So although you thought you are in Beijing, you are helping Beijing, but once things come to you, you will always also be one of the victims. So I agree that China should not be held accountable because that's the Chinese Communist Party's fault. We should hold those criminals accountable.
Yeah, and he
So
spoke about the... Yeah.
My fact can be verified.
No, he spoke about the WHO. I wanted to make a point because when in the first comment that Mr. Tangen said, he asked me if I think WHO is not credible. Now, it's not me saying it, Mr. Tangen. Let me give you a piece of information, right? Reported worldwide. 14 countries have expressed concern over the WHO-China joint report. In March, a group of 14 countries, including the United States, Australia, Canada, the Czech Republic, Denmark, Estonia, Israel expressed concerns over the report on the origins of COVID-19 by the WHO and China. It's not me asking the question, the whole world is asking, or most of the world, maybe Pakistan is not, but most of the countries are asking. I'll let Dr. Batra come in and then I'll go across. And by the way, we have a lot of time. We've decided to stretch this debate. General Bakshi, we've decided to stretch this debate. We're not going to end it at 10. We will stretch it. I have a short 2 to 3 minute commercial break. I'll take that break and come back. But before that, I'd like to give Dr. Batra, you have 2 minutes. If you like to make a comment, I'll let you speak. I'll take a break and we'll come back and continue with this.
Fine. First of all, the WHO's job is to alert world leaders that there's a problem. Like a fireman, there's a fire alarm, okay? The WHO failed miserably in its job. The problem occurred in the Wuhan lab in the fall of 2019. Patient 0 was admitted in the Wuhan hospital on December 1. The Wuhan wet market was on December 30th. And when the Chinese government showed up, they didn't take samples. They power washed the place because there was no virus coming from that place. Then in January of last year, there were 2 protein strains, the original strain and the cover-up strain. At the Wuhan wet market is where the cover-up strain was unleashed. Okay. Second, to Mr. Tangen's point, there are lawyers who teach in a classroom, and then there are lawyers who practice in courts. So when we do a cancer case and we prove that a doctor was guilty of malpractice, You don't have to be an oncologist, but you learn oncology. I learned biochemistry and epidemiology as if this was a cancer case. And the protein stream is clear. This has been an genetically altered virus. That is not up for dispute. It's an open secret. Peter Strzok is a cover-up artist. Okay? The WHO sent a team which should have been really called, the Great Vacation to China. Because they spent 3 hours in the Wuhan lab, and they spent the rest of the time, 14 days quarantined in a wonderful hotel. All right? Zoonotic jumping, 1,000 kilometers away is where all those animal farms are.
Yeah.
And there is no COVID cases. No COVID cases at animal farms.
Yeah.
So we can forget about this zoonotic issue.
Yeah.
Countries do biowarfare research. This is biowarfare research.
Yeah.
That went out of control.
Okay.
And we need to now bring it down and solve it.
A very interesting panel with us on the debate tonight. Introducing them once again before I hand it over to General Bakshi, who wanted to come in. General Bakshi is joining us live from Delhi. Major Gaurav Arya, Consulting Editor, Strategic Affairs. Dr. Ravi Batra, he's an eminent attorney and Chair, National Advisory Council for South Asia Affairs. He's live from New York this evening. Aina Tangen is a political and economy commentator live from Beijing. And Dr. Lee Meng-Yan is a virologist and a whistleblower live from New York. Okay, General Bakshi, over to you.
Niranjan, Mr. Tangen said that he is a lawyer. He is not a doctor. It shows.
No, he's a political and an economy commentator.
Economy commentator. He has confessed a lack of knowledge of the medical and virological aspects of this whole issue, which is the crux, and his lack of knowledge is evident and showing. Right? The simple fact is, he says that scientists have given it a clean chit. Your information, Mr. Tangen, is dated, badly dated. That was last year. And now that Lancet paper has come under serious scrutiny and adverse comment because of the conflict of interest of Peter Daszak, who funded the Wuhan Institute of Virology to the extent of $3.7 million to conduct the gain-of-function research which had been proscribed in the United States. It was very cleverly shifted there. All right? Since you are a legal person, may I remind you that U.S. lawyer Larry Clement has filed a $20 trillion suit in the United States suing Major General Xi Zhengli and Major General Chen Wei, the two generals of the PLA who run the Wuhan Institute of Virology. They have been sued. That is the legal aspect. All right? This is a gain-of-function virus, and very cleverly, as scientists have pointed out, as virologists have pointed out, and you need to check your facts more on the medical side rather than being disparaging about what countries are doing to fight this virus. How is it that the Wuhan virus, spread to New York, spread to Italy, but it did not spread 1,000 kilometers from Wuhan to Beijing or to Shanghai? How is it that on 21st of January 2020, the Wuhan Institute of Virology filed a use patent for remdesivir. You heard the name? You heard the name of that medicine? Everybody knows that medicine now and how it is used for fighting corona, for fighting COVID-19. This is, I'm talking of 21st January. You can't file a use patent till you have tested that for 2 to 3 months. And if you are in a real emergency kind of a situation, minimum a month and a half. That means somewhere in December, the Chinese knew that it was the COVID virus. How is it that the Chinese foreign minister, Mr. Chen Yi, was requesting the neighboring countries to keep their borders open in February? Please see the timeline.
Right.
In February. How is it 25 flights a day were allowed to take off from Wuhan to New York, to Europe, to spread that infection?
General Bakshi, I have limited time. Can I let him respond? Let him respond to that. Let him respond to that, and I'll add to because there was some confusion that he had about whether countries are actually questioning it. I mentioned 14 countries, but even the European Union delegation has said in its statement dated the 30th of March 2021 that it regretted the late start of the Wuhan mission and the limited availability of early samples and related data, although it described the report released as an important first step, adding that they will further require timely access to all relevant locations. So my question to you, therefore, is, and you can respond to what the others have said, and I'm adding my little part to it. Will China be open to another investigation? As a political commentator, what's your sense? Mr. Tangen.
Well, I think they should. I mean, it won't solve the COVID crisis right now, but going back and doing basically a forensic study of how this crossed over is very, very important. If it in fact was not zoological, where did it come from? If it was transferred from animals, how did that occur? And could it occur again? Remember, what we have here with the pandemic is going to happen again. I know that many of the people on the panel have conspiracy theories, but from a scientific point of view, I mean, there have been 9 separate outbreaks since the first SARS outbreak these many years ago. That's pretty substantial, and it's going to continue. We have almost 8 billion people on Earth. They're bumping up against each other. There are these wet markets, not only in China, but throughout Southeast Asia, South America, Africa. They serve, if you go to the marketplaces there, they have bush meat on display. It's not refrigerated. So there are always dangers. And I think the forensic studies are very, very important. I don't think anyone in China denies that. What they bristle at is this idea and the kind of nonsensical conspiracy theories based on dislike of China or the system, that they're somehow guilty before the facts are actually coming in. So I can understand that they're a little bit piqued by all of this, and they're not very happy to be another target.
Yeah.
I mean, on an almost daily basis, you hear terrible things about China, and they don't feel that they are getting a fair hearing. Just as if they were watching this program, they would feel that they're not truly being represented very well, since everybody assumes that they're guilty before the trial.
Yeah. Now, because you called it conspiracy theories, and I'll let Lee Meng-Yan respond. Major Arya, I want to come to Major Arya and Dr. Batra as well. I'll come to both of you, gentlemen. Would you also, Lee Meng-Yan, look at what's happening now, right? Because you said Trump was spreading conspiracy theories. You said everybody under Trump, Mike Pompeo was spreading conspiracy theories. Now, according to the Chinese version, everybody who talks about the responsibility of China, they feel that they're jumping the gun. See, Blinken has faulted China for slow response on COVID-19. The US Secretary of State Blinken now has called for more thorough investigation of COVID origins in China. It's not me saying it. It's not the Indian media saying it. Anthony Blinken has said it on April 11, 2021. Anthony Blinken has said China's early failure on COVID cooperation helped speed the pandemic. Would you call that, Lee Meng-Yan, is that also a conspiracy theory? We're not saying it. It's the Biden administration also saying it, right? You're in New York.
Absolutely.
So, yeah,
Okay, Lee can go first, and I'll go to Dr. Batra next. Lee Meng-Yan,
so
go
actually,
ahead.
According to Chinese propaganda, which is also part of their information war, spreading misinformation and disinformation is very in Chinese PLA schools. So that one clearly mentioned that once the scientists or the people who had justice all over the world realize that it's a bioweapon, China government can spread misinformation and lie to others to let them lose their direction and also waste the time for the world to have the action. So this is the way we are seeing come from last year to now and keep going. And Mr. Tangen, he thought he's the target, but actually he's just one of the two. It's used by Chinese Communist Party as a propaganda campaign to mislead the world. So I think we now already confirmed this is from the lab, and this is a bioweapon, new virus, which is targeting the world. So yes, we should ask our scientists to focus on this direction, and also government work together to solve this problem and hold the people who made it, hold the government who made it accountable.
Yeah, what China calls as conspiracy theory, Li Mengyan calls propaganda. Okay, let me, I want to go across to Major Arya, and I'll give the last word to Dr. Batra. Major Arya.
You know, Mr. Tangen has said that there is conspiracy theory against China, etc. But the fact of the matter remains that 3.5 million people are dead. What an investigation will reveal is that did the virus come from the wet market or did it come from a lab? Is it a bioweapon or was it let loose accidentally? But there is no investigation on whether the virus came from inside China or not. And there is no conspiracy theory about that. And what Dr. Li Mengyan said about propaganda is essentially China's three warfare strategy, which is part of the PLA strategy of war fighting. Number one, it talks about psychological warfare. Number two, it talks about media warfare. And number three, it talks about legal warfare. And what Dr. Li Mengyan said right now about propaganda is essentially media warfare. Anybody who speaks about this virus being lab created, discredit him. Tell him that he's professionally incompetent. And I'm sorry to say this is exactly what Dr. Tangen said. Mr. Tangen said when he came, he says, none of you are virologists. None of you are experts. So
I'm
start
not a doctor.
with discrediting people.
Yeah.
Sir, I'm not a doctor either, sir. But the fact of the matter is 3.5 million people are dead.
That's very nice.
And all you have to say in defense of China.
Yeah.
Sir, all I'm trying to say, Mr. Tangen, is that you are saying that there is a conspiracy. 3.5 million deaths are not a conspiracy, sir. There are 3.5 million dead bodies because of China.
Okay. Last word to Dr. Batra.
If I might. First of all, let's just say that the world over, we appreciate Chinese culture for centuries. We have learned a lot from the Chinese culture. It has brought a lot of civilization to humanity. Okay? So let's get that out of the way. Second, there is no animosity towards China. Richard Nixon opened up the world to China on a silver platter. So United States has been a steady ally, in fact, a welcoming ally of China, that it went from its lower economic position relative to the USSR to now where it's the senior partner of Russia. Okay? So, and this is thanks to America. So this is not against China. It's not against the Chinese people. But you know, there's an old saying, just because there is smoke doesn't mean there is fire. But here, the house is on fire. And to deny that there is fire is ludicrous. So to say that this is conspiracy theory is to hide the inevitable. And I am telling you, a year ago I was very upset because I thought we could contain this. And I was thinking in terms of crime and punishment. Today I know this is beyond containment. Yeah. It's mutating, and India's got a double mutant. Singapore has a new mutant. And now we're fighting over, let's not call it the Singapore mutant. So whether you call it diplomacy or wolf warriorness, I'm uninterested in either. My interest is how do we save humanity from this particular crisis? Science does not have sovereignty. We need scientists of the world to disarm this ICBM bioweapon of a virus. We need to put this genie back in the bottle, okay? So we need to get less emotional. We need to stop playing these things like, oh, it's a conspiracy. I have held many a cancer oncologist, surgeon liable for malpractice in a court of law. Every trial lawyer around the world knows how to hold a virologist liable. I cracked this case a year ago. It's a biowarfare agent that escaped the lab. And stop complaining about the United States. $3.7 million is chump change. It's chump change, okay? Every country has engaged in biowarfare research. China is no different. But when it comes out of a lab, without intention, we need to disarm it.
Yeah.
So my request to Prime Minister Modi was, don't be upset with China. Ask President Xi to join in a new Desmond Tutu Truth and Reconciliation Commission on science. Let's disarm this baby. It's bad for us. And by the way, if the world is finished, President Xi will have no one to dominate. China will not be able to dominate the world if everybody's dead.
Dr. Batra,
so we need to disarm this.
Yeah, I've completely run out of time. My apologies to all other panelists. But because Mr. Tangen is heavily outnumbered on this debate, I'll give him 30 seconds more and I will end this debate because I don't have time. Mr. Tangen, if you want to, your last words to the panelists on the debate and I'll end it.
I do hope that at some point we get more clarity on where the COVID-19 went. But I think it's best, rather than saying dispositively that you know where it's from without having all the facts, it'd be better to have an open mind. China needs to make sure that all of the doctors can get in there and make sure that they do a very careful study of that. I think that's very important for the credibility of China and to kind of do away with all the kind of things I've heard about the $3.7 billion and the
million. It's not billion.
It's not
million.
even in the report.
Yeah.
So you go these things. So at this point, let's stick to the facts and wait until we know more, rather than just coming up with these very strange ideas.
Okay, let's see where it goes. For one, we are watching this very, very closely. General Bakshi, Major Gauravarya, Ravi Batra, Dr. Ravi Batra, Aina Tangen, Dr. Lee Nyan, I thank you for your time and it was nice to talk to all of you. Thank you very much. And we have reports from across India coming up in the battle against COVID-19, how rural India, the heart of India, COVID is not just spreading, but we're also fighting back. Here are reports that have been filed by the Republic team of reporters.